Alright guys, it's Dokkan time, and I am behind, and I'm late, and I'm sorry, and I apologize. This is the how to build for the EZA LR Turles. So this was kind of a very random, unexpected EZA. Actually, we expected this EZA a year ago at the time of this recording, over a year ago. So it's very weird that we're just finally getting the EZA for this unit. And it's honestly kind of the same exact issue that the physical Turles has, in that it feels like this unit has been built and made for a previous meta, and that's a problem. But we're still going to try and build him in the best possible way that you can run him. So, at the moment, what's on the screen is a 55% build. There really isn't any... There's not really too many ways to really build this guy. I'm not gonna be... I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm gonna be real with y'all. There's not a whole lot of ways to build him. Not in my opinion. He has built-in crit, so there's only two ways to build him. You either decide to go full dodge, or you decide to go full additional, and then you put the rest into either or. I don't feel like there's any other real way to build him because there's no reason to get in particular. There's no reason to really worry about crit, because even if you're a person that's like, you know what, I like attack effective against all types, he has that. He has attack effective against all types. So if you're fine with that, then you don't need to worry. But he also has crit. So let's just go over his kit real quick here. I'll get into his leaders and his other options in a minute. He raises attack and defense for one turn and has 50% chance to stun. His 18 key super hit greatly raises attack and defense with a 70% chance to stun, which is crazy. He does have attack and defense of 180, key plus 1 up to 5, plus an additional attack plus 10% up to 50, and reduces damage received by 10% up to 50 per Conquest of Terror or Planetary Destruction category ally on the team, depending on which category has more members. So, before we get into the rest of his kit, this basically bottlenecks him. I don't like this. This is bullcrap right here. This is already a bottlenecked unit because of, well, he's a movie boss. He's a movie boss. He's a Turles unit. He's Conquest of Terror, Terrifying Conquerors based unit. So he's already kind of restricted excessively. This restricts him heavily even further because now you have to worry, do I have a full team of Terrifying Conquerors? Do I have a full team of Planetary Destruction? Or do you just have a team that has a mixture of both of the categories so that you can get the buff? Because here's the example. If you have 3 Conquest of Terrors and 3 Terrifying Conquerors and 2 Planetary Destructions, you will only get the Terrifying Conquerors. So you'll only have 30% damage reduction in this case. So the only way you can get the full 50% damage reduction out of his passive is if you actually have a full team of either or Terrifying Conquerors or Planetary Destruction. So as soon as you lose one, he loses the buff. He loses part of the buff. It's whatever he has more of on the category of team members. Moving on. Plus an additional attack and defense 100 when forming a super, and if there's a Warriors Raised on Earth category enemy, plus an additional attack plus 50%. So this means no matter what, he's still getting attack and defense of 100%, but the 50% attack you will not get unless you are fighting a Warriors Raised on Earth. So there is that to worry about and think about. Terrifying Conquerors or Planetary Destruction allies also get key plus 3 attack and defense plus 50%. That is fantastic. 50% support unit is nice. I would say he can go in slot 3 and you can float him and, you know, make him dodge. That would probably be his a use of him. Plus an additional key plus 6 and attacks effective against all types when the target is in attack down or stunned. Yeah. Attacks effective against all types when key is 20 or more. And all attacks become critical hits and launches an additional super attack when key is 24 or more. So this is pretty much where his entire kit comes out. Like this is his kit right here, is the hitting 24 key. I would say this is not a problem, but it kind of is. Primarily because I do feel like he could struggle for key. Now, you probably don't think that too much because, you know, he gets key up here at key plus up to 5. And then he has this key plus 6 right here. But the thing is, this key plus 6 right here is only if the enemy is in attack down status or is stunned. If that's, which is not going to be the case in difficult, challenging content, you will not be able to take advantage of that in the majority of fights of Red Zone, Blue Zone, Supreme Magnificent Battle. You will not be able to take advantage of that. But in certain circumstances, you definitely can. So it's like a 50-50 thing. It really depends on what you're going to go take him into. Depending on what you're fighting, you might not be able to take advantage of that key plus 6. I would say your mileage with him will vary greatly depending on if you can activate this part of his passive, based on whatever team you're running anyways. So as far as after that goes, he does have an active skill which gives him key plus 24. And that's it. That's literally all it does, is give him key plus 24. It doesn't give him extra attack or defense. It doesn't do damage. It's just there. Can be activated when HP is 60% or less, starting from the 8th turn for the start of battle, up to 2 times. So that is an interesting thing, that he can activate this 2 times. It's very nice. He has standard kind of Turles links: Thirst for Conquest, Destroy of the Universe, Big Bad Bosses, Prepare for Battle, Brutal Beatdown. Primarily, what you obviously want is to get this Big Bad Boss link off and Thirst for Conquest primarily, and then of course Prepare for Battle. Everything else is just extra and does help. You will notice the difference, but more than likely you're not going to have Brutal Beatdown or Destroyer of the Universe open. He only has 6 categories, which makes him very, you know, unmovable to other teams, but I mean, he was already kind of unmovable anyways. You might as well have only given this unit Terrifying Conquerors and Planetary Destruction. I would say that would have been a very solid thing to say, is that those are his only 2 category teams. Obviously, he does link well with himself. He links well with himself, his other Turleses. And then he will link well with Coolers, and then Amond and Turles Gang. Then after that, his links will start to drop, and the only thing you're primarily going to be activating is, you know, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power, and Prepared for Battle are going to be the primary links after that. Otherwise, you'll just get random mixes of Big Bad Bosses and Thirst for Conquest, one with either or, not really both, majority of the time. As far as his leaders go, his leaders are pretty poor. You're not running him with Ginyu, I'm sorry. You could run him with Ginyu, but I don't see the purpose. Until this AGL Ginyu gets an EZA, he's an invalid leader in my personal opinion. And he's kind of invalid anyways because you want to run full Ginyu Force with him. Frieza is still a terrible unit in my personal opinion. One more Terrifying Conqueror does not make him useful as a leader or as a unit in my personal opinion. But it is he has an option. He has an option. I do think they do have a couple links together. And I think by a couple, I mean literally Big Bad Bosses and Thirst for Conquest, and that is it. So no key links going off right there, so you got to go purely based off of the passive or supporting units. But then there's Turles, and Turles is his primary unit. So as far as his defense goes, his defense isn't too bad there. Sorry about this. So as far as his defense goes, compliments of Halvard over here. I mean, his defense isn't too bad, especially if you can get him at that 50% damage reduction with a full Terrifying Conqueror or Conquest or Planetary Destruction team. You know, key 24, if he manages to triple super, you know, 1.5 up to 1.7 million defense with support. That's pretty crazy. I mean, mind you, that is linked with Fizz Turles, which is a very unlikely scenario. You probably will not be doing that too often. I don't feel like most people are going to be running a Fizz Turles team. So that there is that to take into consideration. You will have significantly less defense if you're just running him with some random Big Bad Boss unit. So that is something to definitely keep in mind while attempting to utilize this unit. Let's kind of look at his roles. So as far as his roles go, I mean, he's a slot 2 unit. I would honestly say you could say he's a slot 3 as well. But I'm primarily looking at this guy as a damage dealer, because he can definitely do some damage. I think Turles can do some crazy nice damage as long as he's getting his additionals off. He's got those auto crits. I think that's his primary role as a unit on the teams that he can be put onto, is that he's a damage dealer. You know, he's not going to be great in every single instance of content, so that is something to keep in mind. But I do think it will be a-okay. I think it'll be okay for the most part, you know? I think it'll be fine, whatever you decide to try and take him into. But overall, I really feel that his best slot is slot 2. Or float him off in slot 3. He is a support unit still. He's a support unit, so floating him is definitely a viable option. I mean, he doesn't have any good leaders right now. When I make these roll tips, guys, I make these roll tips for as best as humanely possible. I try to keep them in meta-esque units as much as possible. It's not 100% possible with Turles, as he does not have meta-relevant teams. At the time of this recording, this is before Worldwide Download Celebration in September of 2024. So you do have to realize that, you know, if we get a Broly around the corner that's is Terrifying Conqueror, Planetary Destruction Leader, and we get a whole slew of content that can completely buff this guy, you know, his leader, his partner, potentially even his slot position can even change. I don't think it'll change much. It's hard to say, really. But as the time of recording is right now, and I feel like I need to get this out immediately, these are his options. It's either you run him on Fizz Turles team, or you run him with freaking with a cooler or Terrifying Conqueror leader like Frieza. Those are your only real options. As far as partners go, I mean, Turles himself, Amanda and Raisin are still valid-esque. They're a dodge or die kind of unit, but they're at least viable to a degree. Same thing with, so remember what I said about the links? Baby and Hirudegarn are not going to share a lot of links with this guy, but they will share big bad bosses. And that's what's important, is that you get the big bad boss link off. I think as long as you can get big bad bosses off, as long as you can get Thirst for Conquest off, I think he can be decent, but you're going to struggle for Ki, and that's just going to be a big issue. I'm sorry, my cat is angry at me because I'm staying up late to record this video, and she just caused a giant mess. So, I think I'm going to wrap up the video there. I think it's pretty obvious how you should build this guy. There isn't a lot of huge ways to build them, as I said. It's either full dodge or it's full additional. And as far as your 55% options go, your 55% option is just kind of leaning towards whatever you're going to make. I would probably give him an attack orb at 55% just to up his damage just a little bit that you possibly potentially can. And just try to get him at 24 Ki and float him off at that point. So, anyways, guys, I hope this helped you decide how to build Turles, how to use him if you were wondering how to use and build this unit. But anyways, thank you for watching. Have a good day and a good night.